2015. You just finished doing the ice bucket challenge. So you rush back home to turn on your television.
Welcome to the NBA Finals. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors have beaten everyone in front of them.
The iconic matchup. Warriors versus Cavaliers. The tension is palpable. The plays are mind-blowing.
Close it to get him free. James on the flush.
And in the midst of it all, you can't help but notice. Is that a little kid? There's a little kid in the starting lineup, and he's jaw-droppingly different.
Curry floats that one up and gets it to go.
Check the three-point line.
Curry spins, drives down the lane, ties the game. Curry looking for a screen. Dribbles off two, puts up a three. It's good! Stephen Curry nails another. Curry looking for that opening. Steps back, crossover, fires away. Wow! Another three from Curry.
Steph is making 45% of his threes. Let that sink in. The crowd erupts every time he even thinks about shooting.
Ooh.
Curry connects.
Everybody loves him.
Look at Curry, man.
Not only does everyone love watching Steph, after they win the championship, all the other NBA teams decide to start hucking up threes too.
Ballin' like Curry.
The younger generation sees this happening, and they adopt this play style as well. Basketball becomes less physical and more skilled and intricate, leaving a dominant tool tucked away in the closet, neglected by the basketball community. Bro, you're just clogging up the paint.
You suck.
You ain't Kobe.
Get off the court.
You're so boring.
Embarrassing.
Brother. Let's start by talking about defense, because even if you feel like you'll never touch the post, we want to avoid getting, eaten alive by bigger players. And then we'll get into some off-ball stuff. And then we'll finally get into scoring with the basketball. I promise you'll learn something. Let's get it. A big, strong, offensive post player is trying to get as deep of position as possible. They want you right under the rim. When they get this deep position, they'll easily finish over you, or they'll finish all over you.
Inside, Gobert, good position. Turns and flushes it.
We don't want this. So as the defender, our first job is to stop this player from getting into the paint in the first place. If you know your matchup likes to post up, you've got to keep them out of the paint. So be strong and try and hold them off. If you can hold them out, then you can force them to post up much further away from the hoop, which is exactly what we want. When we do get sealed off into a post up, we still have the same job. Before they catch the ball, get your armbar into them and push them out as far away from the paint as possible with your lower body. But you're not going to be able to push out any strong players like this, so instead, we can use the scoot method. The scoot method is when you step in between your opponent's stance and you drive your quad into them as you shuffle them out. Be careful with this though, because the moment you lift your foot off the ground, that's a foul. But lifting your foot off the ground does give you a good idea as to how to actually do this motion. Once you're sealed, you can also fight for a 3/4 front, which is probably the best position to get. To establish this position, you really just gotta outwork the offensive player and get in a position where you're truly denying that pass. If you're actually denying a straight pass, then the offensive player is gonna have to release and catch it further out, and now they're much easier to defend. But there might be times where you just can't fight around this behemoth.
At the line, and Embiid, deep position.
And there will also be plays where if you try to get in front, you might get caught out of position as the pass is being thrown. If you can't fight around, you can read that pass coming in and reach through to poke it out.
A double-digit lead after Cleveland cut it.
Let's look at these same scenarios on the offensive side. How do we actually get a post seal? To get a traditional seal, you essentially just take a big step across your defender and get into them with your hiney. You've got to make sure you fully step across them. So on the step before the big step across, make sure you land it right outside your defender's stance.
Offensive pace is slowed. Embiid, great positioning underneath.
Draw one up. But you got a minute 20 here to get a stop and not turn the ball.
Once we get a post seal, it's kind of like getting a 4K TV on Black Friday. We've got to fight to keep it. Remember, our defender's always trying to push us further out of the paint. So when we step across our defender, we've got to keep our feet active and push them back to maintain or improve our position. But if you've already got super deep position, then your defender's probably going to try to fight around you to get to that 3/4 front or the front position. Here, the same principles apply. Feel your defender on your back and shuffle your feet so you can stay in front of them. This is a physical play, and as with all physical plays in basketball, there's a bit of a gray area around what's legal and what isn't. When you feel your defender trying to fight around you, you can also wrap them with your arms. Yes, this is illegal, but if your defender is aggressively fighting around you, then you've got to play aggressively back. Honestly, just do it. And if the guy you're playing calls you out on it, then you can switch to the legal version, which is getting your arms into field goal posts, which are hard to fight around in themselves. And then the only weapon you have to keep your defender from fighting around you is to shuffle your feet.
Carl in deadly position right there against Jonathan Kuminga.
These post duck-ins are super underutilized. Think about how often you can cut to the rim and then just seal off your defender.
Down to Embiid.
A lot of the time, you can just waltz into the paint and just get that deep position with no fight back, because a lot of guards don't know a thing about post defense. This traditional seal, where you take that big step across your defender, is great for a north-south post-up. When you're on the block, we can use what's called a pro seal. A pro seal goes like this. When you approach your defender, step in between their stance and get your armbar into their chest, and then of course, drive them back. You can also use the armbar to duck in,
Inside, there's Jokic.
but we use the pro seal when we're on the block because it makes it much easier to face up. If your defender is quarter fronting when you're sealing with the armbar, you can get your armbar hand onto your defender's bicep and push it away, making denying that pass much harder for the defense. Unless you can really bat down that deny hand, most of the time, you're going to have to release and come to the ball if you're quarter fronted.
You want to play against the premier teams like yourself in the league.
Try and always land on 2 feet so you can pivot either way.
Since Washington had made a free throw, Joel. And Harold gets up and fouls. Got some extracurriculars.
When you release off your defender, you create a mini closeout. If your defender is giving you space, one of the cleanest ways to counter this quarter front is to release right into a fadeaway.
Little foul line jump shot is butter. And, now they start to play the mathematical game. Just make the math extremely hard.
In to finish off the game. Randy likes this core group now, watching the maturation of this game as Kobe hits his first.
If your defender takes away that space, you just rip through to the cup. And if they take away the rip through, jab and go.
Yeah, well, there was so much pressure. I mean, after that big trade, everybody talked about how, they were a champ.
Like I said, it's like attacking a closeout, so be ready to attack as soon as you catch the ball.
Use the off arm to get what he wanted.
Back to the quarter front. If your defender is aggressively trying to fight around to deny, you can keep changing your position by angling more and more to the basket, and now that's an easy bucket. You might have to swing it to the corner to get that pass through. Finally, let's say you get fronted. Here, you'll also want your foot in between your defender's stance and an armbar into their back.
Klay Thompson put the ball on the ground. It was tough.
When you're fronted, you need space behind you to release and catch the ball.
Right?
Inside to Jokic.
So what you can do is nudge your defender further up. This will ensure that you can actually catch the pass.
The Raptors during this most recent trip as Embiid.
If you're ever getting fronted or quarter fronted, you can always swim around your defender if you want to just catch the ball and work in the post.
We aren't going to have a home game where the Warriors 40% from the field. I know it. There's too many.
We've discussed a lot about getting into position to catch the ball. But of course, you can also dribble into the post.
Conversation with Neesmith in the locker room last night after the game.
To get there, you could snap it between the legs to turn your back. But a simple spin where you switch hands will keep the ball protected. The between the legs, or any other dribble move, is nice to use when you know you're sinking into the post.
Give me what they want. Kyrie answers.
But when you get cut off on your drive, you'll want to use the spin.
Lengthy player who's got a really solid understanding of scoring in the paint.
Bobby spins.
If you're playing a quicker defender, but you are stronger than them, you would be crazy to not enter the post when you get cut off on your drives.
In the most glowing terms, because you saw it on that highlight package.
Having strength and an understanding of how to play in the post can really make basketball so much easier.
To the floor. James to the rack.
When it comes to scoring reads in the post, there's two defensive stances you'll look for when posting up: giving middle and walling up. When your defender is walling up, their back will be squared to the sideline like this. A walled up stance means the defender is giving you baseline. We'll touch on some ways to attack baseline soon.
Just a second. Gotta drain this three. Joel Embiid.
And when a defender is giving you middle, then their back will be more towards the rim.
Working people over in the paint.
Gets inside. Banks it in.
Whether you're catching the ball or dribbling into the post, the first thing you'll do is check middle.
From the sidelines. Absolutely brilliant.
Tatum on the baseline. Jumper's good.
Look over your inside shoulder. If you only see your defender's shoulder in your path, or like in this case, basically nothing in your path, then you'll attack middle.
They're able to get that right-handed jump hook off.
It's best to know both the giving middle stance and also the cue to go middle when you only see your defender's shoulder in your way. You'll need to remember both of these because sometimes your defender will be in the walled up stance, but when you look over your inside shoulder, you'll only see that little bit of them, so you attack middle. The shoulder look is usually the go-to read, but what I'm trying to say is the conglomerate of knowing both the stance and the shoulder look will help you make the correct read.
Seventh game with one of those matchups. Here's Kawhi Leonard in the paint.
As a defender, a great reason to opt for this giving middle stance is that it gives you access to this back tap steal.
Lucas waving him off.
You'll pick a lot of pockets with this one because it's very unexpected.
Ball games. After a couple of sparkling outings.
Also, if you choose to wall up, you can overplay and reach from the front side.
Then Valanciunas knocked away.
The defense by Philadelphia. Poke! Really good tonight. And right on cue. Great.
Notice how when they're reaching, the ball is on its way up.
And I think it's going to be...
I'll have to come back up, right? So, like, I wouldn't probably go for a steal. I wouldn't go for a steal here. That's what people fuck up. I go to a steal when it goes like that. Because guess what? He can't go quick enough. But when he let go on it, boom. Because the ball has to come back up.
If your defender is playing your backside, giving you middle, you can protect the ball by dribbling it more in front of your body.
Shot, they very rarely take those. They're either at the rim or out beyond the arc.
Because he sees it kills the opponent's spirit. He's been killing a lot of spirits.
You can use the in and out style of dribbling.
It's an in and out circle. It's tough for me to do it slow, but it's an in and out circle.
If your defender's walling up, then you'll extend the ball out on every dribble and then pocket it. Extend and pocket. Extend and pocket.
Butler against the rookie out of Alabama, Primo. Low post.
Now, let's talk about your potential go-to move when attacking middle, the post hook. The post hook is kind of like that kid that was weird in high school, but then grows up to be successful, you know? It's the Tim Duncan. It's the Jokic. You see it, and most of us watching are like, man, this is so boring. But while the guards are getting all the attention, the post hookers have been soliciting buckets, and the Timmies and Jokers of the world end up celebrating their wins and MVP trophies. Point is, it might not be the coolest, but the post hook is an absolute bucket. Remember when we were talking about getting deep position? If you've got a mismatch, you could completely disregard this take middle or baseline stuff and just bully your defender until you feel you're close enough to shoot the hook. There's really not much else to break down about it. You remember when Kobe said, "These guys are playing checkers. I'm out here playing chess." This move is kind of like playing chess, except instead of maneuvering your pieces around the board, you just repeatedly hit your opponent. So we can use that when you've got a strength mismatch. We can also use a jump hook when attacking middle. And I would argue that when attacking middle, this should be your go-to move. When you check middle and you read the attack is open, spring off your back foot to get to space and rise up to shoot the hook. Typically, you'll see space and go around your defender to get this off. But if you bump your defender, bump their top shoulder. If you see them drop down and kind of open up, there's your cue to get into a post hook.
And Joker with the big body bends move.
Yeah.
Notice how he's bumping him down. That gives him space to get this hook off.
Plowed his way in. Oh, the left-handed hook.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're gonna get your shit stuffed with this move.
Oh!
Of course, being tall does help. Your matchup is always gonna be a factor. But if you're really springing into space and keeping your body in between the defender and the ball, you'll find a lot of success with this move. You can even ward off your defender a bit with your off arm. Of course, a lot of players will jump on this, so you've got to have the up and under.
Up and under, that's good.
It's been a good stretch for mine. Butler in the post. Goes underneath for the...
Another option you can use when attacking middle is this closed stance explosion.
Back down, Giannis halfway!
What we're trying to do here is really explode out and leave our defender in the dust to finish on the other side of the rim.
Victor spins, got it to go.
Can extend the lead here. Bryant against Ellington. Ellington, the former Laker. Bryant goes around Elm, lays it in.
If you're playing in a competitive game, the use of the off arm can really slow your defender down.
Foul for Melo. Oh, Damian Lillard.
Whether that be a hook,
And especially this was the case early in your career, of course.
or swiping their arm.
Trip down the floor for Halliburton. Here's Luka inside.
If you can't get around your defender, you can settle for this running hook shot.
Sabonis throws up the hook.
It's definitely one of the things that he's used his entire career is that pump fake. He's so fundamentally sound as Towns.
The final move I want to talk about that you can use when going middle, that's also going to nicely segue us into going baseline, is the fadeaway.
Conley has guarded him well throughout his whole career. Curry, the fadeaway.
You'll probably look to shoot a fade when you're too far away to shoot a hook shot. When you're bumping your defender's top shoulder, you'll have the opening to separate up the line and shoot this fade.
Isolation on the wing. Here comes the follow-away jump shot.
It's a tough shot, but you can get it off if you're really leaning back.
That fall-away shot is up and good.
Depending on your defender, you might have to get a lot of separation.
Second. James posts up and knocks it down.
So when they're giving middle, you'll bump their top shoulder and fade to the middle.
Taking the double, then bringing the double.
But when they're walling up, you'll bump their chest. That's the cue to fade baseline.
To the Wizards.
Rui, the turnaround.
What you're trying to do when bumping their chest is to send your defender backwards. If you see their feet shuffle back, you can get into the baseline fade.
To the floor with effect.
Embiid, the turnaround J.
Shooting a baseline fade when you're on the left side of the floor, assuming you're right-handed, is so much easier than shooting it on the right side.
On his hip, backing him down, turn to the base.
When you shoot the baseline fade on the right side, push off your inside foot to get space backwards as you turn your outside foot 45 degrees. Then separate with your feet and turn so you're squared basically like this. As soon as that final step lands, you'll turn and raise up into your set point.
You mentioned has been hot lately. Kobe, first possession.
This shot is tough. It takes body control and athleticism to square up in midair.
He still feels like the same guy that came in.
Rather than squaring up in midair, Jokic will instead use his patented Sombor shuffle to get this off.
Sombor shuffle, yes.
Instead of squaring up in the air, Jokic will lift his pivot foot up so he can finish squaring up on his feet.
Wait a minute. Lift your pivot foot. Isn't that a travel?
You can lift your pivot foot off the ground and it won't be a travel as long as that foot doesn't hit the ground again while the ball is still in your hands. Let's take a look at Kyrie in his second NBA season doing the same thing to Rookie of the Year Damian Lillard. We get a little bump action and Kyrie fakes the fadeaway by landing on 2 feet. Because he lands on 2 feet when he gathers, he can now pivot either way. So he elects to go middle. He fakes the fadeaway and gets Dame up in the air. Now, if Kyrie were to do a typical up and under, like we've discussed where you pivot 90 degrees, he would probably smack right into the flying Damian Lillard. And while the NBA organization would most likely be liable for any hospital charges if he were to do that, I don't think Kyrie reads legal contracts. So instead, he spins around Dame. And now we get to see him lift the pivot foot. But it never comes back down while Kyrie still has the ball. So it's not a travel. And a lot of people will be quick to leave emotionally charged comments calling this a travel. And at first sight, you really can't blame them. But let's take a look at this one more time. This is now his pivot foot. You can lift your pivot foot off the ground after a dead ball, just as long as that foot doesn't hit the ground again while the ball is still in your hands. Think of a 1-2 layup.
3-point play, Clay knocked it away.
When you gather the ball, it's now dead. The first step you take is establishing your pivot foot, and then you lift that pivot foot to take your second step. And of course, this isn't a travel because your pivot foot doesn't hit the ground.
Hurry down the lane, and he rammed it home! A right-hand spike!
We'll talk about some ways we can use this footwork soon. But for now, let's get back to post fades. So again, when you bump your defender back, you'll get into a baseline fade.
Durant, back in, turn around,
but
money.
Your defender doesn't know which way you'll go. So now we can start to mix our defender with half spins and dream shakes.
Boy, going to work as Kobe Bryant.
To perform a half spin, you'll typically bump, then separate a touch as you land on 2 feet in a wide stance.
Their feet for Bryant underneath. He's got it. This place.
When you land on 2, make sure your back is facing the basket.
It's Kobe fading.
Now, as we mentioned, you can pivot either way. So you'll throw your head, shoulders, and ball in the baseline direction. Now, we just push off that back foot and get into the middle fade. A great place to use this half spin fadeaway is when your defender is in the giving middle stance, but you're smacking them right in the chest. When you hit your defender in the chest, you're sending them backwards, which gives you that baseline fade option open. But because they're in the giving middle stance, you can also shoot the middle fade. So fake baseline and take middle.
And he knows it. Say it again, Joe. Pippen. Jordan on the run. Whoa! Ewing's first bucket.
second in the fourth quarter. 1:10 to go. Jordan in the post over Houston.
Once you've established your deadly half-spin middle fadeaway, now we can add another layer with the Dream Shake. And it starts by landing on two and faking baseline just like before. Now, you've got your defender traumatized thinking about all those times you turned middle after you used this fake. So, now when you turn to fade middle, if you see them slide to cover it, you can fake that direction and fade baseline.
From 11-0. Kobe on a fadeaway good.
Garnett double. He tries to help. Good low post.
53 seconds. Who they give it to? Of course, number 2-4. Made 2 in a row. Defense trying to pinch over to possibly help out. Bryant again, 3 in a row. Yes, he
The next move on the menu is gonna be one of your go-tos, the spin move.
And gets an and one here. Same type of play he made a minute ago.
This is a baseline move, so you'll be looking for the wall-up stance.
Embiid blows past Gafford.
Traditionally, to perform this move, you'll pivot on your back foot as you whip around your defender.
Kobe. Goes baseline with that great first step. Right.
If snot flies out of your nose, that's how you know you're doing this right. You can use this whenever you're given baseline, but a great time to spin is when your defender is giving you a bunch of resistance.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about his offense.
If the defender's pushing you back, using the spin move is kind of like the offense's version of pulling the chair.
Spinning, look out!
This leaves the defense in a tough spot, because if they don't push back, they're barbecue chicken on a back down. But if the defender does push back and they're putting a wall up every time you give them a bump, when you feel them wall up, you can spin right off them.
Stone count. Luka with the spin.
That to a whole new level.
Yeah, Crowder will be in the
When you use the spin move, you'll want virtually zero distance between you and your defender.
Grant Williams has really started to...
A common strategy on defense is to use an armbar to keep space between you two, like so. And this is a great counter to the spin, because when you spin off a defender that you're not making body contact with, that defender's going to be able to recover and you'll get cut off, forcing the offensive player to use a counter move.
Tatum on the baseline, jumper's good. And
You're hoping that the Sixers are the fresher team.
Joel
Finally, once you've traumatized your defender enough, a violent fake spin can get you a lot of openings.
Bryant spinning. Difficult shot for some.
Yeah. Terrific journalist for NBA.com. Kobe baseline over Neto has 32.
The stuff down there. You just got to get a little lucky about it.
When your defender's walled up, we should always be looking to get to the rim first, making the drop step the perfect go-to.
Spins inside, easy bucket. Levine's got it back. 9 on the clock.
The perfect drop step looks like dropping your outside foot past your defender's stance, basically sealing them off, giving you an open layup.
10 and 14 in March and April.
Just like the spin move, it works best when you have body contact established first.
From Luka, who is continuing to operate with effectiveness inside today.
But a lot of the time, your defender will still be in front of you after you drop step. When this happens, you can get right into a jumper.
Responsible a lot.
This looks like a fadeaway, but a fade is more when you send your defender back and you fade away from the hoop. This is more just going to the side of your defender. And this can absolutely be one of your go-to moves as well, as it is for Jimmy Butler.
Doing it here and really a renaissance here with the Bulls this year. And how about Butler against Irving?
Folks, that is his wheelhouse.
That's all I got for this one. Thanks for the support, and let's keep getting better.